This center, it's so awesome that it's named after him. I mean, I was there at the beginning and saw how much he wanted this, and he saw a future here for the city, and now look at it. It's like a whole new neighborhood. I feel like a tourist. I was taking pictures. I loved him like a father. I really did. He was just a wonderful man. He did so much for the neighborhoods as well and the city, and this is just a complete honor. I'm sure he wouldn't like all this glory and stuff, but he likes what this started here, and I'm very proud that I was with him from the beginning and the end, and I loved him very much.
And this building is very important to me because during the convention we held the very first event here. It was the media party. It was the first event after the building opened, so it's truly fitting that this building bears Mayor Menino's name.
And I think the importance of renaming this convention center for Mayor Menino is that no one was a bigger cheerleader for the city of Boston than Tom Menino. And a convention center that is world-class, which this one is, and he had the vision for from the very beginning, attracts people from all over the world. It drives economic impact here in Boston and for the entire region. And it is all due to Mayor Menino's vision.
Please rise for the singing of our national anthem by Stephen McNulty of the Boston Police Department.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of the Massachusetts Convention Center Authority, Marcel Vernon Sr.
Such an amazing crowd, such an amazing crowd. Thank you all for coming. Good morning. It's my pleasure, it's my honor to be the first to welcome you to the Thomas Michael Menino Convention and Exhibition Center. I'd like to give a special welcome to the Menino family. The appointed and elected officials, current and past, my incredible team, and the Menino team. Mayor Menino just wasn't the mayor of Boston. In many ways, he was the mayor of New England, and to some, the mayor of America. His vision and his leadership were the driving forces behind the development of this very convention center and the transformation of the seaport as we know it today. Under his guidance, Boston became more than just a historic city, it became a global iconic city. And I need to repeat that, a global iconic city. His leadership, it wasn't just inspirational, it was foundational. And this is something that I hope to carry forward along with my team. So welcome. Today is a day of celebration. And it's my honor to introduce someone who knew Mayor Menino well and worked beside him, State Representative Rob Consalvo.
Thank you, Marcel, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. I am so excited and grateful to be here today to play a small role in helping to honor our mayor, Tom Menino. As a lifelong Hyde Park resident, I'm thrilled to say a few words and introduce an amazing video that you'll see soon. I was lucky. For 12 years as a Boston City Councilor, I got to work with a person who I looked up to, who I admired, and most importantly, who I learned from. Why? Because he always worked tirelessly every day to help people. He frequently said, quote, "Let's not forget that government should be about helping all of the people, not just some of the people." Yeah. Throughout Boston, everyone knew and loved him. From Cleary Square to Walcott Square, from Rosendale Square to Logan Square, you could always count on running into Mayor Menino as just our local neighbor, even though he was the mayor. He never forgot his neighborhood, and most importantly, he never forgot his neighbors, especially when they needed him most. One of my favorite stories about the mayor, and this is, I'm not embellishing at all, it's a 100% true story, was when he called me at 5 a.m. one morning, and I don't know how or why I answered my phone at 5 in the morning. He called me to report, and I quote, "a huge pothole on Hyde Park Avenue." So in my sleepiness, I said to him, "Why are you calling me since you're the mayor?" And he said, and I quote, "Because you're my counselor, you need to get it fixed." So no pressure there. Well, I made sure to call Commissioner Casaza immediately, and I begged him, literally begged him to fill that pothole by the end of the day. And thankfully it got done, and of course, promptly the very next morning at 5 a.m., my phone rang, and it was the boss. And after checking first to see that the pothole was filled, he said to me, "You now have my vote." When I was on the Boston City Council, I was proud to be part of an amazing elected delegation in Hyde Park and Reedville, with our leader, Mayor Menino, at the helm, and with City Council President Steve Murphy and State Representative Angelo Scasia. We worked hard together every single day to make our neighborhood and our community better. Although for some reason, I always seem to be the one doing all the work. Angelo and Steve, where are you? Is that right? I think so. Our community locally has many fond reminders of the impact that Mayor Menino made in our community. The Menino Arts Center and the Menino YMCA are just to name a few. But it's fitting and right that this center today will now bear his name, now and for generations to come. In Hyde Park and Reedville, we were so lucky to call Tom Menino our mayor, but most importantly, our neighbor. And I am so grateful that, like so many of you here today, I got to call Mayor Menino my friend. And now I'm thrilled to introduce a short video on the man who showed us all what public service is all about. Thank you.
I know. Hi. Hi, how are you? I'm Tom Menino.
Born in 1942, he was and remains the pride of Hyde Park.
I am today announcing my candidacy for the office of District Council.
What's that guy?
It goes without saying that Thomas M. Menino, the longest-serving mayor of Boston, loved his city and cherished its neighborhoods for the people, traditions, and cultural richness he found in each block.
Main Street is the heart of the neighborhoods of Boston.
Working tirelessly to foster neighborhoods as centers for community enjoyment and vibrant Main Street businesses, he connected with people in every corner of the city. Tom Menino didn't focus on socioeconomic status, race, or where you were born. He wanted every person to know that he would be their mayor. In surveys commissioned by the Boston Globe in 2008, 2009, and 2013, more than half of Boston's residents reported meeting Tom Menino personally.
But the most important part of meeting half of Boston residents is not that they know me, it's that I know them.
There's a mayor's schedule and there's a Menino schedule. Groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, school visits, luncheons, briefings, press conferences, first pitches, benefits, grand openings, stopping for coffee or breakfast, lunch and dinner, and always in a different spot to hear the local scuttlebutt. Tom Menino sought out the issues people cared about and showed up for the city he loved.
It is my responsibility to make sure that the rising tide benefits not just the wealthy or even the middle class, but that it leaves no one behind.
He firmly believed that the aspirations for Boston's next generation should be grounded in its neighborhoods and its people, creating jobs and new opportunities for parents to do a little bit better for their children, providing safe streets and welcoming programs in every community, and offering steady confidence that Boston's government is about helping people.
It's time to build a new convention center in Boston.
So it's no surprise that he envisioned a space that would attract people from all corners of the world to experience our city, to meet, to share ideas, and work together to accomplish great things here in the place where our American experiment began, Boston's waterfront. His vision for the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center would revitalize the South Boston Seaport, inspire development, and become a vital part of the city's future and economic vitality. As the construction of Menino's 516,000 square foot exhibition space plan was unfolding, the mayor was working on reducing crime.
We all know the police can't do it alone. It takes the neighborhood folks.
It would reach a 30-year low the year the convention center opened.
2004 was a great year for Boston.
The city would host its first ever Democratic National Convention. The curse would be reversed, and Boston's next chapter of growth would just be getting started. Today, we honor the man who had a heart bigger than his voice, who loved his city as if it was his third child, and who believed that development is about people, not just buildings.
Everybody's grateful. They will never forget you. You will always be in our hearts, and we love you.
Please join me in welcoming the Reverend Gregory Groover, pastor of the historic Charles Street AME Church, to give our invocation for today's event.
Let us pray. God of grace, God of glory, God of greatness, and the God in all that has been, that is, and that shall always be good. On this day that you have made, we pause to first give thanks for inviting us to celebrate it, to rejoice and be glad in it, and to even praise you for providing us your precious presence. God, we are acutely aware that you have ordained this occasion into order even before any of us ever imagined it to be. We are exceedingly excited to know that way before there was this convention center, long before there was a seaport, and even ages before there was any city on a hill known as Boston, you dreamt of a servant of yours named Thomas Menino, who in your own perfect time you would raise up this city to heights unheard of and feats unforeseen. Thank you, God, for empowering Mayor Menino to dare envision and then lead us in the birthing and the building of a new South Boston, a newer neighborhood where all people from all walks of life in this city and from even all around the world would be warmly welcomed, especially here in this center. We are immeasurably indebted to you, O Lord, for your generously gifting this city with Mayor Thomas Menino. And it is our fervent prayer, it is our fervent hope that the naming of this eighth wonder of the world as the Thomas Menino Convention and Exhibition Center will always stand to remind us of what manner of a man and a mayor he was in our midst. We seek your continual blessings on Angela Menino, whose unquestionable love for this city involved her selflessly sharing her husband with this city. Continue, O God, to watch over her in her coming and in her going. And crown Susan and Thomas Jr. and their children with your continual favor. Carefully guide the work of our current leaders, our Mayor Wu and all of our elected officials, that the love for the people of this city that Mayor Menino so unashamedly held shall only be built upon in their public service. And then finally, we seek that your will for this Menino Convention and Exhibition Center, for this seaport, and for this city shall be accomplished always and in all ways. This is our prayer that we offer in your name as the God of us all. And with one voice, let the people of this God say, amen.
Good morning. It's an honor for me to be here. I was very fortunate to be asked by Mayor Menino to perform at a number of city events over the years. And I have to say, throughout that time, he had all these different names for me. Saxophone Ward, Ward the sax guy, Andre the music guy. And they just kept changing. But there was one thing that I can say never changed. It always remained the same, and it was his dedication and commitment to the arts. Mayor Menino understood the importance of the arts that brings everyone together. So in the light and in that spirit, I've chosen this song as a tribute to his leadership and vision.
think we need to give another round of applause. My goodness. So much feeling. Andre, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm WCVB News Center 5 anchor Jessica Brown. I'm so honored to be here on behalf of Channel 5. Well, 32 years ago today, Thomas Menino took over as mayor of the city of Boston after his longtime colleague and friend, Ray Flynn, assumed his new role as our country's ambassador to the Vatican. Please give a warm round of applause to Ambassador Flynn and his wife, Kathy, who are with us today. Well, it's my honor today to read a quote from the late Mayor Menino, given at his very first inauguration speech delivered at Faneuil Hall on January 18th, 1994. Mayor Menino said this, quote, "I want the city of Boston to be for everyone what Hyde Park has been for me, whether you live in the three-decker where you grew up, or whether you only recently arrived in Boston from Haiti or Cambodia, Ireland, or El Salvador, whether you settled in Boston after coming here for college, or whether you are somebody who has felt left out of politics and government and are tempted to give up on the city, whether you are a young person thinking about dropping out of school, or whether you are a business owner or a worker who has been laid off. Whoever you are, this is the promise I make to you today. I dedicate my time as mayor of Boston to making this city work as well for you as it worked for me and my family." It is now my pleasure to introduce our first speaker this morning, a former mayor herself, our Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Kim Driscoll.
Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to be here. This is a feel-good day for sure. Thank you, Jessica, for that warm introduction. And first off, thank you to Angela and the rest of the Menino family for the many years of sharing the mayor with this city and with all of us. I know from experience that's not easy. And to the Mayor's City Hall family who is dispersed throughout this crowd, the proof of a great mayor is the love and loyalty of his staff. I see so many of you here today. And that's why multiple generations of talented people he nurtured are leading critical institutions across our city and our state. And thank you to the fellow leaders of this great city, Mayor Flynn, Mayor Walsh, Mayor Janey, Mayor Wu, and the current and former city councilors who are here as well. Thank you, Congressman Lynch, Senator Markey as well for being here. And I know we have our treasurer, Deb Goldberg, here as well, and former Governor Jane Swift. To Marcel and Jim Rooney and Gloria Larson, thank you for your stewardship of this critical engine of our economy. And finally, for their partnership to make this day possible, I want to recognize Speaker Mariano, Leader Moran, Ways and Means Chair Aaron Michlewitz, and so many members of the legislature who are here. Governor Healy and I were so proud that this historic renaming was part of the Mass Leads Act, our economic development bond bill, that brought us here all today. Fittingly, it's an economic development law that builds on the innovation leadership that Mayor Menino did so much to establish right here in the Seaport. I think we're here because Tom Menino was a mayor who changed people's lives. Many of us can attest to that personally. For me, as the former mayor of Salem, he was the ultimate role model because he was a mayor's mayor. And here's just one example. Back in 2008, 2009, the recession left cities facing big fiscal challenges. We needed legislative help as we were dealing with spiraling healthcare costs. We had to bring in the big dog from the Mayor's Association. That meant Mayor Menino. He led the charge and brought us all together. And at one point, there was a really important meeting of legislative leaders, administrative officials, and others at the State House. And I'll never forget this meeting because I was still a new mayor. I was from a smaller city. It had a big impact on what was going to happen in my community. And there were, at that time, very few women in the room. And everyone was going back and forth, expressing their feelings and opinions. And Tom Menino quieted the room. He said, "Hold up, everyone. And he turned to me and he said, I want to hear Kim's perspective. He made room for me at the table to make sure my voice was heard at a meeting, something that he did for many. He used his political capital to make that room a table that saw everyone there. He looked out for me, and I think he looked out for all mayors. He truly was a mayor's mayor. He never saw the job as a stepping stone to higher office. He never wanted for it because he had the best job in the world. He came to City Hall every day, excited to do more. I thought of him as his own very personal 311 system. I think the staff knew his route to work. And that's what you do when you just don't love your city, but you're in love with your city. You know that every single day you can make a difference in somebody's lives. That means you're looking at every streetscape differently, every piece of graffiti that might exist, every neighborhood infrastructure that could be improved, or intersection, or school, or park. That's your park, that's your school. It's your job to make it better. You feel the blemishes, you are driven to fix them, willing to take the slings and arrows because they're not for you, they're in service to something better, and that's the place that you love. Many people didn't know, but he was also a part-time architect. I think half the buildings in the district have his fingerprints on them. He was his own one-person design review board, I think it's fair to say. So much of what he did was in service to us, and you look no further than this great convention center, because the mayor had a vision. It was not only of a landmark facility that would welcome the world with pride to the city that he loved. It was a vision for a catalyst that would help make Boston and Massachusetts a leader in the global innovation economy. It was good jobs, from construction sites to hotels, labs and offices, biomanufacturing facilities that are now spread out across this state. It was also good government. He knew that every dollar spent by the convention goer in every lab or office built, housing people, would be built by a company that meant more resources for the city he loved and the people he served. More money for fixing potholes and revitalizing parks, hiring teens for summer jobs, getting seniors their services, helping people become homeowners. His vision for world-class economic development was about world-class quality of life for the people of Hyde Park and Roxbury and South Boston and Mattapan and East Boston and all the neighborhoods of Boston. And that's what made him the best mayor in America. Simply put, he loved his city, and it shined through in everything he did. That's where his work ethic came from. That's where his attention to detail came from. That's where his willingness to have hard conversations and disagreements came from. That is where this convention and all this economic development came from. Tom Menino wanted to leave the city he loved in better shape than he found it. That's what he did, and that's what this facility represents. Governor Healy and I get to come here often to speak with major industries and influential people from all around the world. Just had the International Bio Conference here not long ago. They come here because of the vision he brought to reality, that this would be the shining example of innovation for other world leaders to see. And today, we honor that vision. And from now on, we'll proudly welcome the world to the Thomas Michael Menino Convention and Exhibition Center. Nothing could be more appropriate.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Hughes from WBZ TV. And it was always an honor to interview Mayor Menino while he was in office. We shared a podium at community events and nonprofit fundraisers. And little known fact, I was also one of the lucky judges on his Read Aloud Book Awards at City Hall, which informed just about every book I bought for my daughter for a decade. Whenever the mayor and I saw each other, he always asked, "How's it going, kid?" Which was lovely because once you're past 30, anyone who calls you kid is immediately one of your favorite people. But even better than that was that he genuinely cared about the answer. And whether he was talking with me or asking kids on a playground in Dorchester, how's your summer reading going? You could tell that Tom Menino wanted to know how everyone in every part of this city was doing, no matter their age. It is my honor today to read a quote from the late mayor that he gave at the State of the City address that he delivered at John Hancock Hall on January 9th, 2001. Mayor Thomas Menino said, "As mayor, the decisions I make every day have a direct and immediate impact on people. I've often been asked, what's the best part of being mayor? My answer is always the same. I love helping people, and that's a part of my job that will never change." It is my pleasure now to introduce Congressman Stephan Lynch.
Good morning, everyone. So good to be with you. It's an honor to be here. It truly is. Senator Markey, I think they missed you on the earlier round of introductions. Senator Markey, thank you for being here. Senate President Travellini, good to see you, my friend. Speaker Mariano and Leader Moran, thank you also for being here. Of course, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, Mayor Wu, Chairman Michlewitz, David Beal, our local state representative here, Senator Collins, Ruth C. Louisiane, Councilor Ed Flynn, Councilor Murphy, Councilor Fitzgerald, and my dear friend Angelo Sciascia is here somewhere. A dear, dear, dear friend of Tom Menino, and an American hero, an American hero. I once had the honor of pinning the silver star and the purple heart on Angelo Sciascia's chest, and we did it in his kitchen in Reedville because he wanted to keep it quiet. I mean, there is, a Vietnam veteran, decorated hero, and the epitome of a public servant, and probably one of the best friends of Tom Menino throughout his political career. To Angela, to Susan, to Tom Jr., and the extended Menino family in attendance today, thank you. Thank you so, so much. One of the great strengths that Tom Menino had, and he had many, was that he had worked long and hard at the job of making the machinery of government work and function on behalf of the people long before he became mayor of Boston. As a Senate aide, as a staff person, as a district city councilor, as a city council president. And to his credit, he learned his trade by doing the work. And he mastered the simple ability to get stuff done. Tom Menino was an excellent manager. We have a big city. At the time that Mayor Menino was in office, he had 16,500 employees that he had to manage every single day. He easily understood the impact of his policies on the people who he served. And he hated to raise taxes. That was one of his credos. He would find 5 different ways to do something more efficiently in order to save money so he wouldn't have to raise taxes on homeowners and businesses here in the city of Boston. My friend John Eade, who worked for the mayor, once said that Mayor Menino would rather donate a kidney than raise taxes. I know he earned the nickname of Urban Mechanic, but it's much, much more than that. You have to manage your resources and put together a team of competent and department heads in order to execute those policies and programs. And Mayor Menino, throughout his time in office, showed an uncanny ability to put a team together to do just that. From Chief of Staff Alice Lee to Chief of Policy Michael Kanivi, Basic Services Commissioner Mike Galvin, DPW Commissioner Joe Casaza, Bill McGonigal over at the BHA, BR Director Tom O'Brien, who's here today as well, Tom Tinlin, who was his Commissioner of Streets, Patty Papa, who was running special events for the mayor, Cecily Foster, who was also a special events director, and Film Bureau head Kevin Chapman, all contributed to the success of Tom Menino, and so many, many more. And he also had people like Eddie Jesser and Connie Kostelnik and Dot Joyce. And he had those people to guide him and keep him out of trouble most of the time. But a good example of Tom Menino's leadership is the story of John Eade, a U.S. Army combat veteran who had lost an eye in a savage firefight after his unit had been surrounded by an overwhelming enemy force in the Ia Drang Valley in Vietnam. John Eade was the only survivor of his rifle platoon. He came home severely wounded with visible and invisible wounds. Tom Menino not only found a job for him, but made him the department head at the Department of Inspectional Services Department. I knew John Eade. He worked on my campaign as well as Tom Menino's. He's a friend of mine. And that job and the help that Tom Menino gave him saved John Eade's life, saved his life, gave his life a new purpose. Tom recognized that. John Eade passed away a couple of years ago in Toledo, Ohio. And I know to his very last day he was grateful for Tom Menino and the kindness that he had been shown by Tom. There are 1,000 stories like that in Tom Menino's time as mayor. Oftentimes, the mayor's job goes far beyond the infrastructure and fixing potholes and the daily maintenance. And the most important functions are on behalf of the people, as so many of the quotes earlier today demonstrate, especially serving the most vulnerable in our community, our children, senior citizens, returning veterans, and families who are struggling. Those are the really important things. And Tom Menino got the really important things right, especially when things went sideways. You know, you learn a lot about a person during moments of extreme adversity. I think Tom and I became a lot closer when we worked together in the midst of a suicide cluster of 14 young men and boys in South Boston. We were beside ourselves. Neither of us had ever confronted a challenge like that. With the mayor's help, and he was our quarterback, he brought in the Department of Public Health, John McGann from the Gavin Foundation, and the reps at that time, Representative Jackie Hart and Representative Marty Walsh, who's here today, Mr. Secretary, Lee Kennedy, and the Boston Building Trades. Together we created the Cushing House. It was a residential substance disorder treatment facility for adolescents, for children, the first of its kind, and it made all the difference. Of course, Tom Menino led our response following the marathon bombings, terrorist attacks, and in the effort to help the city and the victims' families recover and heal. The need to create and preserve deeply affordable housing in the city was always an issue. And I know Tom worked with my colleague Mike Capuano to develop Mission Maine and Roxbury. And then he partnered with me in the redevelopment of what would become the Ann Lynch homes at O'Colony named after my mom, and rebuilding over 1,000 deeply affordable housing units. There are also a lot of successes and celebrations as well during Tom Menino's tenure as mayor. He helped the Bruins win a Stanley Cup. He helped the Celtics raise a banner on a championship. He helped the Red Sox win 3 World Series and the Patriots 4 Super Bowl championships all throughout his tenure. And like a good politician, he took credit for every single one. And of course, we worked together on this project, the BCEC, the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. I was the chairman of the Senate chairman of the Joint Committee on Commerce and Labor, and I was very fortunate that Senate President Tom Birmingham and my dear friend, Speaker Tom Finneran, allowed me to have a leading role in drafting the legislation to establish the BCEC with a lot of help from my neighbors, the South Boston Citizens Advisory Group, who actually approved the final design. So in closing, it is entirely fitting that we attach Tom Menino's name to this institution, which is so often the first place to host and to welcome so many visitors to Boston from around the country and around the world. Today's ceremony is simply an effort to say thank you. To say thank you to Angela. To say thank you to the Menino family, but especially to say thank you to Tom Menino for a wonderful career of public service and for a job well done. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Steve Cooper from 7 News in Boston. And when Dot Joyce asked me to join her on a Saturday in the summer in Boston, I said, where are we meeting, at Carson Beach? And she said, no. We're having a naming of the BCEC for who else? Tom Menino. And I said, so we're not going to the beach? No. But make sure you're here at 10:30 in the morning. So when I got here this morning, I went all the way to the back. If you way in the back of the building, and I said, how on earth am I going to get to the front of the building? Little did I realize we had the Mayor Menino shuttle buses taking us from the back to the front of the building, and here we all are today in this beautiful building to thank Tom Menino. I had the privilege of covering Mayor Menino going back to, I guess, last century, because many years ago, that's when he was elected the mayor of Boston. And I had a chance to look at some of the things that I've done with Mayor Menino, and I just wanted you to see that a long time ago, when a young buck reporter arrived in Boston, the first person I met was Mayor Menino at the Walk for Hunger, and then I met him, where else does he spend his time? At Fenway Park on opening day. And one thing about Tom Menino is he was always interested in you and your family. And at the time, my twin boys were about 2 weeks old, and he kept asking me, how are the kids? How are the kids? How are the kids? I said, Mayor, I wanted to ask you a few questions on the news of the day. And he's like, well, I just want to know how the kids are. And that was really our relationship. And as many of you know, WHDH just so happens to be across the street from City Hall. And sometimes, when I first started covering the mayor, he spent so much time at Channel 7, I thought there was a secret tunnel from his office to the studio at 7 News. He was a mayor who never ducked the tough questions, 24/7, and he was unpredictable, as many of you know. He was fun, and he was funny. One day I was called by my boss to say, you need to go find the mayor and ask him about an arrest that happened overnight. So obviously we started at his house. I apologize, Angela. I forget if we rang the doorbell or just sat on the front steps. But the Boston Police Detail wasn't too happy that we were camped outside of his house. And when we wouldn't find him there, we would go to the backside of City Hall because we knew what door the mayors snuck into. Mayor Wu, Mayor Walsh, Mayor Flynn, we know those doors. And when he wasn't there, we would just go up to his office and we would wait. And we wait in the reception area and we would just wait. And the receptionist would say, I'm sorry, do you have a meeting with the mayor? And I said, no, we're just here to interview the mayor. And we just wait. And at some point, who would emerge from that secret door like the Wizard of Oz? Mayor Menino, and say, what's up, kid? What do you need? So I said, well, I just have to ask you one question. There was an arrest last night, and we need that for the news today. And, thought I would ask, what you thought about all this. And he said to me, yeah, that guy, he's a knucklehead. And I'm a young cub reporter. This was 26 years ago, and I pulled out my dictionary, and is that a secret code mayor word for something? And my boss called me and said, did you get the mayor? And I said, yeah. And she says, well, what did he say? Did he make any news? And I said, well, he called the guy a knucklehead. And she goes, oh, great, you're the lead at 6 o'clock tonight. Perfect, this is great. Then the next morning I woke up and in the Boston Herald, it said knuckle-head. And I thought, okay, I like this guy, Mayor Menino. As you can imagine, he was the master of the sound bites, and he was just a man of the people. He was a man of the media. He had a special relationship that made it fun to cover him, but he also never dodged the difficult questions. And so today, it's my honor to read a quote from the late mayor given at his State of the City address that was delivered at the Cutler Majestic Theater at Emerson College back on January 11th, 2005. Mayor Menino said, "It's the people who give our city its vitality. This year, as Boston prepares to celebrate its 375th anniversary, we are making Boston a more livable city than it has ever been. Tonight, I am pleased to announce that I have secured $1 million from the Convention Host Committee to fund the beautification of Boston's neighborhoods. These resources will allow the city to shine for years to come. And for the city's birthday, we will host events in every neighborhood of the city, inviting all of our residents to share in the celebration of Boston's great epic, the story of neighbors who support one another where it matters most. Whether your family has lived in Boston for 1 year or for generations, we will celebrate you with honor and pride and with optimism for all that you will bring to the city in the future." It is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, the Honorable Michelle Wu, the Mayor of the City of Boston. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am incredibly honored to be here with you all. I want to thank and recognize my predecessors in this office. Thank you so much to Mayor Flynn, Mayor Walsh, Mayor Janey. Thank you to all of our colleagues in public service at the city, state, and federal levels. Thank you to all of our neighborhood association leaders who are gathered here today, all of our community leaders and activists. And thank you to Mrs. Angela Menino, to Tom and Susan and Bill and Lisa and all the Meninos. And thank you also to the Menino family. 2 decades in the mayor's office, and another decade before that on the other side of the 5th floor is a big, big legacy. And I can see the mayor up there now. He's got that smile on his face like it's election night in the Eagle Room, waiting for the returns to come in. And so I just wanted for us to do a little roll call. So can you give a wave or give a shout if you served under the Menino administration in his last term? Okay, I call us the closers, right? Okay, term 4, alums? A lot in the house. Term 3? Okay, showing up strong. Term 2? Wow, pretty even divide. Mayor Menino's first term as mayor. The OGs. And who is here who served from the time when it was Councilor Tom Menino? So for all of us who have been part of this incredible Menino family and have had the honor of serving, and for all of us who've been connected, July 12th has always been a very special day. Incredibly meaningful, and I remember making the pilgrimage out to Reedville every single year for the burgers and the politics. I wanted to take a little point of personal privilege also to recognize that in more recent years, July 12th has also become extra special in my household because today is also my son Cass's 8th birthday. So we're very happy now, but 8 years ago, I was not a happy camper because his due date was July 7th. And some of you all may understand this in this room, but you know what is worse than being in DC, Congressman Lynch, sitting in a congressional testimony room in the hot seat facing hostile Republicans? What is harder and worse than all of that is a neighborhood meeting about parking in South Boston. But even worse than that is being 5 days past your due date. So Cass has always done things his own way, and we realized he wanted to make sure he came on a special day that adds even more meaning. So happy birthday at home. And today, we get to celebrate Mayor Menino's vision and his action. 25 years ago from this spot, the mayor looked at the parking lots and warehouses that define the South Boston waterfront and saw the possibility for a new neighborhood for the city. A place that would welcome the world to Boston and strengthen Boston as a place for innovation and possibility. We would not be here in this powerful space or as a city without him. But the truth is, the mayor saw the whole world in every block of Boston, every neighborhood. In Grove Hall, he saw a vibrant community living in a food desert and made it happen so that the Grove Hall Mecca would provide shopping, services, groceries, jobs for all. At the site of a former garbage landfill in West Roxbury, today, kids play soccer all throughout the season. Families are on the playground. Residents are on the walking trails. At the site of a formerly decaying Ferdinand building in the heart of our city, today, our BPS teams invest in the future of our city in a beautiful bowling building and the businesses and the jobs and the activity that continue to grow around it. But even besides buildings, even more basic than that, every pothole, every streetlight added up to a community feeling the respect and care that they deserved, the power of shaping our shared future. And to make it happen, he was everywhere. I remember when I was getting all of my sister's things together when she was moving from Boston off to college. We were organizing all of her papers and this and that, going through all different boxes. And I was the political one in the family, right? I had been working in the administration. I was out at community events. And at the bottom of one box, she pulled out a picture of her with Mayor Menino. And I was like, where did you get this from? When did you ever meet Mayor Menino? And I had never heard about this. And she just kind of shrugged and said, he came to my school one day. For the mayor, at the end of the day, it was about making City Hall focus on people, the families we serve, and the beating heart of getting things done in Boston, which is our city workers. This was a family with high expectations. And it was rocket science, but you saw it in the quotes, that government is about helping people. And so when someone called, you would try to help immediately. You didn't need fancy technology like voicemail for that, didn't need or weren't allowed. Someone needed to be there to always show up. And that also meant taking a chance on some of us who never would have seen ourselves in government. Finding the potential and the possibility in each person way beyond what they even dreamt or imagined at that time for themselves. A security guard from this neighborhood who was pushed by the mayor to keep getting his education, keep moving up, and eventually oversaw all of the streets and roadways in Boston and then across the Commonwealth. Where's Tommy Tinlin? A former chief of staff who would go on to run transportation agencies, this very agency, and then one of the most powerful and impactful groups in the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce, who continues to sort of be a friend to the current mayor from time to time. Thank you, Jim Rooney. A young kid who was building stages as part of Patty Papa's team, who now represents his community and helps to impact policy statewide as the chair of the Ways and Means Committee at the State House. Thank you, Rep. Michlewitz. And an intern who wasn't lucky enough to be born in Boston, but who cared about her family and this city, and whose life Mayor Menino changed once again when he told her, "Go see Uncle Frank, go get involved in our city." We each have our own stories of how Mayor Menino changed our lives, how he saw the possibility in every single one of us. And that all added up, and the world felt that impact. Mayor Menino was known around the country as the mayor's mayor, mayor for a new America, leader on tackling gun violence, on investing in the arts, and most of all, on caring about the little things that matter most to our residents, basic city services. But the eyes of the whole world were on Boston in 2013 when a tragic moment of terror shook our entire country and our community here in Boston. The entire world saw when Mayor Menino, in his own recovery, found the strength and the power to stand up once again for the city of Boston and to declare that this is our city. In that moment, he declared that you can be an urban mechanic and also a powerful defender of the very essence of Boston, of the fight, the grit, the determination that we have to take care of our own. So one story sticks out for me that was shared through a member of the media, who I will allow to remain anonymous, but I thought it captured a bit of how I have enjoyed seeing Mayor Menino in action over the years. This reporter shared that it was always an experience, and you've heard from members of the media that Mayor Menino could be very hands-on about telling you how he felt after something was published or a story came out. And when he was mad, you would hear it. But when he was really, really mad, you wouldn't hear anything at all. And so this reporter had published one of those silence following stories and wasn't sure what was going to happen from that point on, because they were still needing to cover City Hall on a regular basis. And it was chill for several days. And then out of the blue, without any more information, one day Dot Joyce called and said the mayor would like you to meet him in City Hall and take you for a ride. No other information. It was at a time where there was nothing on the public schedule. No one knew where they would be going. And he just had to show up at that back elevator where the mayor comes out and say a prayer. It was also then silence the entire drive from City Hall all the way to Hyde Park. The mayor didn't say a word, but this reporter noted that they drove by an extra, the scenic route, let's say, around key places, key things, key activities that were hustling and bustling out in the city. And eventually they arrived at a place that he couldn't even remember what it was or where they were going, but they parked, went in through a back door to a spot in the middle of the day, and it was filled with people, with seniors who immediately came to life when they saw the mayor walk through that back door, and he was hugged and kissed and grabbed and shared so many stories and smiles throughout that event. By the time it wrapped up, they got back in the car, and talked a little bit more on the way back to City Hall. But what this reporter told me was that the message was clear. Mayor Menino knew the truth about Boston. That truth wasn't defined by headlines or what others were saying about us, whether from the globe or across the country. The truth is in our neighborhoods. It's block by block, how our people are doing, how our families are taking care of each other and enjoying everything possible that this city could offer. And so as we stand here today, I am most grateful that this Thomas M. Menino Convention and Exhibition Center will bring the entire world and bring Bostonians from every one of our neighborhoods together to see the truth of who we are. A community that refuses to give up, a community that will always fight for what's right, and most of all, who will always fight to get the little things done just to help people and make a difference. Congratulations to everyone here, and thank you to the entire Menino family.
Mayor Wu, everybody, please. She spoke about the mayor's love of the people and the truth. Here's a little truth for the mayor. I was standing in front of that hotel about 3 hours ago waiting for my friend Tom Samoluk to come out. And the valet was standing there and he saw me taking a selfie with Mayor Menino's face behind me. And when I mentioned to beat, the valet said, "About damn time they did this." It's about damn time they did this. And you know who would appreciate that more than even the mayor's eloquent words would be Tom Menino. I'm Doug Gowdy. Some of you may know me as VB from Boston 25. And back when it was Fox 25, I was a sometime agitator of the mayor's. And oftentimes after agitating him, I would get agitated back by the mayor. He didn't like me too much when I was agitating him, but I can tell you he loved when I was agitating other politicians. But you know what he loved even more than that? When the politicians would agitate me back. So I share with him a story that he just made happen about an hour ago right over there. I knew I was going to be speaking. I know these things can drag on and take some time, so I figured I'd better hit the restroom before I come on up here. I'm at the urinal, and a shadowy figure comes up next to me. I look over, and I think I could say something or say nothing. But I'm an agitator, right? So they say, "Speaker DeLeo." And Bob DeLeo goes, "Jesus." I let that sit for a minute, and then I said, "What's it been, about 15 years? And without looking at me, he says, "Yeah, 15 years, and you still won't let me take a piss in peace." If it wasn't for you, Mr. Mayor, that little exchange wouldn't have happened. But I will say, long before I got to Fox 25, now Boston 25, I started in the media business, and as a young buck, I was working at a station that had a legendary broadcaster that Tom knew, Jerry Williams. I went up to Jerry Williams one day and I said, "Hey, do you have any advice for a young guy who's just getting started in his business?" And Jerry Williams looked at me and he said, "Don't get to know the politicians you're going to cover because you might just like them." Nowhere in my career covering politicians has that turned out to be more true than Tom Menino. And here's why. It's my pleasure to read a little speech that he gave at the Strand Theater back in Dorchester on January 15th, 2008 in his State of the City address. This is when he said, "Working together, we are making city life more meaningful and more rewarding. Together, we will strengthen this city's framework for achievement and its network of opportunities. And together, we will expand Boston's prominence on the global stage. I ask all of you to join me in this process. You are the key to the future, both more brilliant and more inclusive than anything we have ever known. Together, we possess the power to drive this city to new heights for ourselves and for all who are around us. Look around at our city and you will see how this sense of common commitment can change a school, a block, a neighborhood, as he might have said. You will see that this spirit has the power to shape us, and we in turn can take it upon ourselves to transform our entire city. This is the greatness to which we aspire. I am committed to this goal, and I ask for your commitment as well." one of the men that knows that commitment and understands what those words mean. It is my honor to introduce him. He is the state representative from the 3rd Suffolk District. He's the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, and maybe 15 years from now I'll bump into him at a urinal, if you know what I'm saying. He is the sponsor of the bill that made today possible, the Honorable Aaron Michlewitz.
I don't know how to start with that. But thank you, VB. I appreciate it. And what an incredible day. Thank you, Angela, Susan, Tommy, and the entire Menino family for letting me be part of this process and for letting me speak before you today. And thank you to Dot and her team. Let's give her a shout out for organizing today's festivities. As has been mentioned before, we are gathered here on July 12th. A date that holds real weight in Boston's history. It is on that day back in 1993 that Tom Menino became the first Italian-American mayor of our city, something that was a momentous occasion in neighborhoods like the North End and East Boston. The stars lined up for us today, right? For us to be here on a Saturday, able to celebrate this anniversary all day, the way it should be. July 12th, 1993 also happens to be the anniversary when John Nucci realized he was never going to be the mayor of Boston. So happy anniversary to you too, John. All kidding aside, congratulations to John Nucci, who just retired from Suffolk University, and thank you to John for everything you've done for many people in this room. I want to thank my colleagues in the legislature, particularly Speaker Mariano, for supporting us doing this today. Speaker Mariano didn't even allow me to get the whole idea out of my mouth before he agreed to do it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your support. Typically, when you hear superlatives surrounding a particular individual, it's usually a little overblown, particularly for an elected official. And Tom Menino wasn't perfect, trust me. I had the opportunity to get it as a staffer and later as a colleague, and many of you know what I'm talking about. But as a mayor, he was pretty damn close. I started working for Mayor Menino when I was 18, thanks to Patty, who I can't believe she got 3 shout-outs today, Patty Papa, and Lou Chanko bringing me on the special events crew. That summer job, building stages and running sound from City Hall to Hyde Park, turned into a part-time gig while I was at Northeastern, and then a full-time job after I graduated. My parents probably thought I would move on to something else, but there was always something that kept pulling me back to City Hall. That something wasn't just Tom Menino, it was Team Menino. Being called stiff by Chief Galvin, watching Tommy Tinlin move up the ranks, Junior Lombardi keeping asking, what'd this Jewish kid do growing up in the North End? Having Lisa Menino just simply say, what's up, kid? And Justine left doing concerts for the seniors on the plaza, and I know her family's here today. One of Tom Menino's greatest legacies is the people who worked for him, and he knew it. He and his team set the standard for what public service should be, and to be honest with you, it's the bar I've measured everything else against in my career going forward. His Menino schedule changed what it meant to be the mayor of Boston. He didn't just set the pace, he made sure everyone else on Team Menino kept up, whether you were in City Hall or out in the neighborhoods. I can tell you sometimes he drove us nuts up in special events, but he made us better. Even going up to the State House and working for Speaker DeMacy, I still worried about what the original boss was going to say or think. His attention to detail of the city he loved is what allowed him to think big and bold, and particularly when it came to items like this convention center and the development of the seaport. That attention to detail that we all embraced is why today, while his name is the one that's going up here, we all feel a piece of that we all feel a piece of us going up there as well. One last story I'll leave you with, which I believe sums up who Tom Menino was to many of us. It was 1 month after his last election as mayor, and I'm a newly elected state rep. My first endorsement as an elected official was Mayor Menino. It was a real tough call. But shortly after his unprecedented 5th victory as mayor, his leg gave out. It was sort of the beginning of his body starting to wear down from everything and everyone he had been carrying for so long. He's home recovering from surgery, and I decided I should bring him some muffins from this new cafe in the North End. Now, I knew he liked these muffins because during my recent campaign, I was hanging out in this cafe a lot, and I saw him pop in twice and grab a box for himself at both times, which surprised me because it wasn't Mike's, it wasn't Modern, and it wasn't even Bova's. Being the young go-getter that I was, I checked with Angela to make sure to know when to come by. I grabbed a couple boxes and made my trek out to Reedville. For a North End guy, it's easier to get to New Hampshire than it is to get to Reedville. But the mayor made us always go out there every July 12th, as the current mayor was talking about for the block party, so I knew the way. After that long ride out there, I get to Chesterfield Street and knock on the door. Angela answers and welcomes me in. I look around, and the mayor isn't in the living room. Oh, he's upstairs in the bedroom. I think he's on the phone, Angela said. Let me see if he's done. She yells out, Tommy, it's Aaron. Send him up. Whoa. I was not prepared for this. Didn't think I'd be hanging out with the mayor of Boston in his bedroom. As I opened the door, he laid up on the bed, his leg elevated, and he was on the phone. He points to me to sit down and keeps talking on the phone. And I looked around, and it's the size of the room that startled me, how small it was. But he's the mayor, I thought to myself. I'd visited the house a ton of times and had even been out inside on a couple occasions, but I never appreciated with that slanted roof how little the room would be upstairs. So once off the phone, which clearly wasn't good news, whatever it was, I gave him the muffins, which put him in a much better mood. We talked for about an hour, mostly about the North End. He asked me what happened in Ward 3, Precinct 2, which we had just lost. I blamed Lisa Menino. That made sense to him. All the while, I couldn't get past that the mayor of Boston's bedroom was as small as it was. And this is now fifth term Tom Menino, national figure Tom Menino, host of the 2004 DNC, doing national commercials on gun safety laws with billionaire Michael Bloomberg. It was in that moment that I appreciated that this larger-than-life man was more comfortable in that small bedroom on Chesterfield Street, and he just loved being the mayor. That's who he was, take it or leave it. For many of us in this room that grew up here and later run for office in the neighborhoods that raised us, the biggest fear that myself, a Mike Moran, a Robbie Consalvo, a Danny Ryan, always have is someone from our neighborhood telling us that we forgot where we came from. If someone were to say that to you, it burns right into your heart. And in my opinion, it's maybe one of the worst things anybody can actually say. Tom Menino never forgot where he came from. His love for the city would never allow him to. It's why he would always use these phrases like, I'm the mayor of all the people, and government was about helping people, and all the ones we're seeing presented on the board today. And today we are honoring him for his big vision of the convention center and his big vision of the development of this neighborhood. But we are also honoring him for his vision of the much smaller things that don't necessarily get the headlines: potholes, healthcare, gun safety, quality of life, city of Boston life. It's why we can use superlatives. When we use superlatives like he was the best, it works, because he was. When we were confronted with the Marathon bombing, the mayor showed his true strength in one of his final acts as mayor, checking himself out of the hospital against doctors' wishes to take care of the city he loved. That didn't really surprise any of us that actually knew him, that he was going to do that. And while David Ortiz spoke so eloquently about our city later that week, Ortiz might have said what he said, but it was Tom Menino that lived what he said. This has been one of the greater honors of anything I've done in the legislature, and I appreciate every opportunity that you've given me to do this. Thank you, Angela. Thank you again to his family for sharing him with all of us, and thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you.
Welcome to the stage, Harry Collins, the former executive director and secretary of the Boston Redevelopment Authority during the Menino administration.
What's that all about? Well, thank you very much for allowing me to be here for a couple of minutes. It does feel like a family reunion, and Angela and Tom are the head of that family. It really does. It's heartwarming to see everybody and how close we still all are. What a tremendous tribute to our friend Tom Menino. To celebrate his legacy with the renaming of this great space, a reminder of his dedication and commitment to the city and its people. I had the privilege to serve at the BRA during the Menino years, which gave me the opportunity to witness his immense care and dedication to the city. When we were working to relocate the many businesses in this footprint of this site, he would always be concerned with finding new locations and making the move as seamless as possible. Some of those very businesses are here today. For the mayor, it wasn't about the building, it was about the neighborhood in a vibrant waterfront. He had an amazing instinct, the best I've ever known. He knew what was right for the city, and the residents and businesses trusted him to lead the way. Dan and I remain grateful for our friendship with Tom and Angela and continue our friendship with Angela. We love you, Angela. Now I have the honor to introduce the two individuals who helped bring this vision to life. Together, they got the job done and led to the expectations that the mayor had. Please welcome Gloria Larson and Jim Rooney.
Thank you all so much. It's just an incredible pleasure to be here. Honestly, it's a huge privilege. And it couldn't be better suited that I'm joined by the guy who really made it happen, my sidekick, Jim Rooney. Oh gosh, there's so many people, endless numbers, who played critically important roles in the BCEC success story. No one mattered more, though, than Mayor Menino, to the vision behind it and the reality of what the South Boston Seaport and the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center mean today. Top-ranked convention center. Simply put, the mayor was the driving force behind the 1997 enabling legislation, the on-time, on-budget delivery of construction, and the considerable economic benefits the Seaport, Greater Boston, and the entire Commonwealth share today, thanks to the BCEC. How we got here from that original legislation is a very long, complex story that's much better told by others. So I'd like to share 3 brief behind-the-scenes personal stories about the mayor's wide-ranging role and impact on this center throughout my 12-year stint as chair of the MCCA board. First, when the governor, Senate president, House Speaker, and mayor were all given appointments to the MCCA board, I thought it was clear that they all had a role in this, but it quickly became clear that having championed the legislation for so long, Mayor Menino had the lead oar and the strongest vested interest of the 3, an interest that went way beyond delivering a cleared site to the MCCA to build the BCEC. And in fact, it extended to the construction, the opening on time in 2004, and ultimately the sales mission that allowed us to fill this place to the brim within just a few years of opening. The legislation anticipated this city-state balance of power by making my role as chair a dual appointment from the governor, then Governor Paul Cellucci, and Mayor Menino. And I have to say that when the governor called me and told me that the mayor had actually agreed to appoint former Republican, now unenrolled Gloria Larson to this role, I was a little bit surprised. But when I thought about it, I thought, this means, and I get it, I am completely accountable to the city of Boston and to this mayor. And that's something that I brought with me to the job every single day, as did the entire board. The open communication channels, the collaboration, the coordination, and the trust that flowed from this really highly unusual partnership is so rare in government. It's rare today, it was rare then. But I knew it could happen when the mayor named Jim Rooney, his chief of staff, to the board. And it was a gift that the mayor so believed in what we could do with him at our side, and because of his long-term dedication and commitment, that was completely consequential to the BCEC's ultimate success. Second, we had the pleasure of starting to build the BCEC just prior to the implosion of the much-delayed, badly bloated $17 billion Big Dig. The MCCA vowed to be different, to be open and transparent with the public about cost and other major challenges. I also made an ill-fated error when just before we even hired the architect, I went public with our pledge to build on time and on budget. What the hell was I thinking? Soon after the first shovel hit the ground, we faced potential cost overruns on site preparation, a problem our apparently tone-deaf project manager insisted on fixing without telling the board, the mayor, much less the press. With our credibility on the line, we fired the guy and replaced him as soon as we could with Jim Rooney. But of course, it was my job to ask the mayor for his blessing. I should have known losing Jim would be a bridge way too far. And Mayor Menino made that crystal clear when he screamed through the phone, "Hell no, Larson," and then followed that with a bunch of well-chosen expletives I cannot repeat today. The good news is he didn't go silent on me. After he cooled off, he saw the merits of the move, including completing the convention center with candor and integrity, and we knew we would have his future support when it was most publicly needed. And boy, did we need his support, hitting numerous rough patches over the 4-year construction period, including sky-high steel prices we could not have predicted, and threats from Governor Romney, press conferences with Governor Romney in which he said he was going to shut the project down if we didn't meet the original price tag. Knowing the mayor was in our corner, even when the headlines weren't, enabled us time and again to find the right solutions and move forward, ultimately opening on time and on budget. I have to tell you, I learned a powerful lesson, which is when you wake up in the morning and you grab, then, as we often did, the print publication of the Herald and the Globe, seeing yourself above the fold with the worst picture they could ever find is not a good thing for the story that follows. The third thing I want to say about the mayor's involvement behind the scenes with us was his sage advice and his support, helping the MCCA navigate the crucial buy-in we needed from South Boston neighborhood in the design and construction phases of the project. We well understood the massive scale of the building and our responsibility to mitigate its impacts, and in particular those to our closest neighbors. Through public meetings, our world-renowned architect, Raphael Vignoli, worked to address South Boston's concerns, including a commitment to build the neighborhood-facing portion of the building no higher than a classic traditional 3-decker. As the architectural plans neared completion, Jim and I excitedly accompanied Raphael to a key meeting with the mayor, hoping to gain his quick approval. Instead, the Mayor Menino pointed to the D Street side of the BCEC plan and said it resembled an elementary school with ugly yellow brick. He said it was an eyesore that would never, ever in any way pass muster with the South Boston neighbors. I saw my life pass before me that day. I'd been in the role already too long to quit, although my partners then at Foley Hoag, who believed I had turned my practice into a 501c3, routinely asked me why I couldn't quietly step down and give the job to somebody else. But I waited and I watched Raphael Vignoli, well known on the world stage for building convention centers, highly acclaimed iconic convention centers, literally across the world stage. And I thought, what the heck is Raphael going to do? I had already introduced Raphael to a huge group of business leaders in Boston where he unveiled parts about what this would mean for Boston and his thoughts about the design. And I made another mistake that day when I went, that I've never lived down since, when I went on stage to introduce Raphael, and he called him my version of Mick Jagger. Again, why the hell would I say something like that? But I lived to regret it when the guy who always wore black, a vision in black, with 18 pairs of glasses on cords around his neck, it looked at the mayor and shook his head, smiled a little bit, and said, "Mr. Mayor, I've heard you. I will consider your input and be back to you as soon as I can." When we returned to show the mayor the revised plan, it was virtually identical to the original, and I strained really hard to see what changes he might have made. This was not going to be a good meeting. However, when he pointed to the D Street section along the brick side, it had changed completely. The offensive yellow brick, the elementary school look was all gone from the DC side. And the reason this had been important to the mayor, in part, not only was it something that our nearby neighbors could see, but it was also the corridor most used by South Boston residents when they walked from South Boston into the seaport. The mayor quickly gave Raphael his approval. In fact, that day, I remember vividly, he called it the most beautiful, brilliant architectural plans he had ever seen. So what were my takeaways that day? Raphael's political skills were almost as good as his architectural ones. He knew exactly what he needed to do to get this iconic building built, and he also understood the mayor's rationale. And Mayor Menino had represented in a small meeting that just included Jim and me, along with Raphael and the mayor, what his true superpowers are as both the visionary city mayor for the BCE and Seaport and the neighborhood mayor for the people of South Boston. Truly a Boston mayor for the ages, I couldn't have been more fortunate to get to know the mayor in this capacity. And I can't imagine renaming the BCEC after anyone else. Honestly, as soon as I realized I was going to be accountable to Mayor Menino in my first year in this role, I started referring to it as the Menino Center, behind the scenes. I prayed this would happen, and I'm so grateful it finally has. And now, of course, I'm so thrilled to introduce Jim Rooney, who I can't imagine being any other place with.
Well, good afternoon. It's so good to be back in my favorite building. It's good to see so many people who played a role in making this convention center a reality and those who have made it a success. And I too want to thank Angela and the Menino family for allowing me to be a part of that and part of this ceremony today. I was talking to Angela earlier, and I reminded her that while we're naming the convention center after her husband, Tom Menino, today, there was a point 21 years ago that the Menino family almost owned this center. And that occurred because we had just opened. It was June that we opened the building, and there was a blustery day in October, and Angela Menino was coming in to speak to an audience in her role as the First Lady of the city, and a piece of metal blew off the overhang outside and landed just feet from the mayor's wife. My phone rang, and it was, I don't know what number of about the 200 times that I was in trouble with Mayor Menino, but he wasn't happy about that event. So Angela, I'm glad it missed you. I'm glad that you probably have this look up every time you walk into the building moment from that blowing off. Let me start by stating the obvious. Projects like building a convention center are not easy. And they're especially not easy in a city like Boston. I shared with Gloria last week how during the development and early success of this building, The stars just lined up, and if they weren't lined up, Mayor Menino would nudge them back into line or elbow them back into line. But having a board chair like Gloria and a mayor like Tom Menino, all dedicated to getting the job done, made it all happen. And I can say with utmost confidence today that if it was not for Gloria in her role as chair and Tom Menino in his role of mayor, this building would not be here today. And Gloria, thank you for your unwavering commitment to building the convention center on time and on budget, a phrase I must have heard 1,000 times over the years. Others have shared sentiments, and you'll hear more about Mayor Menino's vision and leadership. I won't repeat all of them, but I was an eyewitness, and I'll endorse all of those sentiments. Tom Menino was a force, a man on a mission when it came to driving the success of this building and this district. Looking back, as I've done over the past few weeks, we can only admire his remarkable achievement and accomplishments through skilled politics, bold leadership, and mission focus. I've thought often about the why over the years. Why did the urban mechanic mayor do this? The person who, as someone said earlier, a Globe poll revealed nearly 60% of Boston residents said they had met him personally. And by the way, that did not include school children, so it was a much higher number. I remember as his chief of staff reviewing his schedule, and he was never happier than when there was an event involving school children on his calendar. This was a mayor of the neighborhoods, you've heard it. I recall sitting in his office and naming types of foods, and the mayor would tell you what restaurant or shop in Boston had the best Italian subs, the best muffins, or the best cookies, or whatever food you could come up with. He would tell you the restaurant or bakery in East Boston, Hyde Park, or Dorchester, or wherever, who owned the shop and why their food was so good. So what was up with Mayor Menino having the vision for the creation of a whole new district with millions of square feet of development and the building of a convention center that would be the largest building ever built in New England? Others have said it, it was all about the people. It was all about jobs. It was all about his love for Boston and his belief that this city needed to claim its rightful place on the global stage. There was nothing inconsistent in his mind about all of this. The future of those children, the prosperity and happiness of all the people he met could only be ensured by creating economic growth and jobs, not just here in the Seaport, but throughout the city. I know we're here to rightly celebrate Mayor Menino's role in this convention center, but he knew its success could only be achieved through the growth in this district. He had a strategy for that too. And in some cases, like he did with this convention center, he willed them into happening. Let me give you a few examples. We desperately needed a headquarters hotel for the convention center, right over here, the Westin Hotel, and a development deal that we had for that hotel was falling apart. Gloria and I had the responsibility of going over to inform the mayor that the deal for the convention center hotel was falling apart, and he wasn't happy. Over the next few weeks, the mayor called me and told me some people I needed to go meet with. He said that they are expecting your call. A new deal got done. Some of those people are in this room, they know who they are, and that hotel got built. The ICA, then over on Boylston Street, needed a new home. They didn't have a site and certainly didn't have all the funds needed to create that jewel that it is today over on the water's edge. Mayor Menino introduced a few people and the deal got done. The Seaport had significant development potential, but needed a strategy. As we were building the convention center, I remember being called over to Mayor Menino's office to receive a presentation on the Innovation District concept. And soon thereafter, there was a district hall, a building described as a living room for the innovation community. The investments in major brands would follow, and look at it now. My point is this was all a big puzzle for Mayor Menino to drive the success of Boston, economic growth, and prosperity for the entire city. I'll end with a quick story. After all the hard work of getting this building built, we opened in June of 2004. Mayor Menino wasn't going to stop there. Gloria and I had to regularly report on the bookings, our marketing strategy, what we were doing to attract business. He wanted to be kept informed of everything. So we decided to enlist his help. We put him in magazine ads, set up meetings with potential clients, and invited him to go on road trips with me and the sales team. There was a national meetings industry conference in Philadelphia in 2006 or 7. All the cities go to this conference, try to make their pitch to destinations, as destinations to meeting planners, the people who make the decisions. As part of it, cities host evening receptions. Our plan was to host an event at Davio's in Philadelphia. When this happens, on a good night, you might get 50 or so meeting planners to stop by because every other city is doing the same thing. I asked Mayor Menino to fly down to Philadelphia with me. Once he agreed, we promoted the hell out of it. Come to the Boston reception at Davio's, meet Mayor Menino. By this time, Mayor Menino was a well-known political figure, not just in Boston, but across the country. That night, we had about 250 people come through. There was a receiving line of people from all over the country who wanted to shake his hand and take pictures. It was an amazing moment to stand beside him for about 3 hours, he never sat down, and watch him pitching Boston and telling meeting planners why going to other cities was such a bad idea, as only he could. He told them what was lousy about any city they named. True story. And you can hear the words he said, too. Boston has never had a better salesman than Tom Menino because he believes so much in this city and in his convention center, the Menino Center. It has a nice ring to it. Marcel, take good care of it. Thank you.
I mentioned those really bad headlines that we experienced so many days, and those bad pictures I saw above the fold. The ones in the Herald were worse. So what we want to do next, I'd love you to watch a video with us that showcases some of the difficult straits that we went through during that period. And it's important to see this because it's part of the history, and it's the reason so many of us were in therapy for so long. But it's also important to know that it wasn't just that we were being open about what we were doing and how, yes, we might have a cost overrun, but we will find a solution. It was also because there were a lot of armchair critics at the time. It was described as a white elephant. It was said that it would sit empty and would be a disaster for the city of Boston, that post 9/11, no one would take airplane flights, that no one would come to a convention center, meetings would go by the wayside, and everything would eventually be done through technology. None of which is coming into fruition, but if you looked only to the Pioneer Institute and some folks whose names I won't mention, you might have believed otherwise. So help me welcome this video, which shows how sheer willpower with a great vision can get the job done. Thank you, Mayor Menino.
How's Menino's Folly, the new convention center coming, the convention center that nobody is booking conventions in?
That's not true.
Tell us about it, because you and I have been having this discussion for some years here. For people who don't know this, I regard this as an enormous white elephant the mayor thinks is a great thing.
It's hard now for people to understand exactly where things were then.
I think the mayor was kind of savaged by the press about being not bold enough.
The cool thing was to be for a new stadium in the city of Boston.
And the first thing I remember Mayor Menino saying was that, you know, we do need a new convention center, but do we really need a megaplex? The mayor had a very clear vision of what the role of this convention center would be, to catalyze the creation of a brand new neighborhood and district around it, not unlike the way that the Heinz Convention Center had created this really vibrant mixed-use District and all of these new hotels that were integral to the economy of the entire city.
$436 million in annual spending, some 6,800 permanent jobs statewide. 6,800 jobs. It's time to build a new convention center in Boston.
He put his political capital on the line to make this happen. The mayor knew that to make this happen, it would require state legislation and it would require the votes of 160 state representatives and 40 state senators from across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
He made sure that he directed the BRA to do all the studies, to convince not only the press and the neighborhood, but also the legislator that this was the best thing for both the state and the city.
Built allies, he built a group of people who worked with him and worked with all of us to make this all happen. He taught us that you cannot ever do anything alone. You have to do things working in a team, and that's the only way that this kind of a project could happen.
He would always say, you know, Kairos, you do the work and let me do the politics. And you know, to this day, I think of the mayor always working behind the scenes to make sure things turned out the way that they turn out.
He was the perfect leader at the perfect time, at the right place, you know, for the city of Boston. He stuck to his guns, he knew what he wanted to do, and he didn't waver.
He was willing to use his political capital, use his network to make sure that everything would turn out in favor of the city.
This convention center is going to be a winner for us eventually.
Really?
It will be. For retail, upper end retail, and some additional hotels next door. And so those things are happening. And
Do you expect that the full flowering of Menino's Folly will be in your 5th or your 6th term? Which decade will Menino's Folly finally pay off? We'll take a break and be back in a minute.
I'm second to last. Dot Joyce said, keep it quick. No. All right, well, my name is LaToya Edwards, morning anchor for NBC 10 Boston. I'm so happy to be with you. Hey, family. Now, Dot, you told me to keep it quick. I'm a Dorchester kid. I don't know about you, but I'm claiming my time right now because I love the mayor, and this is a family reunion, so just give me a moment, okay? All right. Before me saying it's a family reunion, I just also want to say that, Dot, you planned a beautiful event. Andre Ward got up there and played Wind Beneath Our Wings, and I don't know about you, but did everybody start to cry a little bit? We miss Mayor Menino so much. So the reason why I get emotional about it is because I grew up in Columbia Point. That's a housing development in the city of Boston. And it's in Dorchester. And the mayor, when I started as a reporter, would say to me, don't be ashamed of that. Be proud of that. Hold your head up high. I'm from Hyde Park, you're from Dorchester. Say it every single day. Proclaim it in the biggest rooms and the smallest rooms. Own it. So that's what I'm doing right now. And the mayor, yes. What I love about it is the mayor was not just my mayor as a profession. He was the guy who was in office when I was in school in BPS. He was the guy who was at the graduations, who was handing out the scholarships. He was at the speech competitions when I decided to become a journalist. It was him. He had a different way of speaking than I did. But he encouraged me to keep dropping my I's and to own the fact that I had a Boston accent. And so I still do to this day. I have to say that when I started working for NECN and covering him in the mornings, he would always check on me and say, and it's NBC 10 Boston now, but he would check on me and say, hey, kid. Lisa, he called me kid too. He would say, hey, kid, how they treating you over there? I'm like, no, it's good. He's like, you let me know. And I knew if I let him know, he would let them know, right? Well, it is my honor to read a quote from the late mayor given his farewell address to the people of Boston, delivered at Faneuil Hall on March 28, 2013. And whether you were in that room covering it as a reporter or you were watching on television, you were watching it because our hearts were all with the mayor. He said, if you want to meet half the people in this city, all you do is go to their homes and their jobs
and where they raise their families and where they strive to improve their neighborhoods and say this: Boston is the greatest city on earth. It's a buzzing, amazing, history-making place. It gets better every day because of you, and as long as you work together, that will never change. It has felt so good being able to say Mayor Menino. It has been so good to hear his name. I've missed him. We've all missed him. On Friday, I had the pleasure to visit his Hyde Park home for the very first time. I walked in, and if you've ever lost someone, if you've ever lost a parent, and unfortunately I'm in that club, certain places you can feel them. I swear to you, I felt the mayor in that house. He's still there. And then when I got a chance to interview the family, Mrs. Menino said, "You can sit in that chair. That's the mayor's chair." What a gift, thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Menino family. Thomas and Menino Jr. and Susan Menino Fenton, the mayor and Angela Menino's 2 children. Let's give them lots of love.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go a little off script. Sorry, Dot. I want to explain the sunglasses. I did have surgery. I don't think I'm cool because I'm wearing sunglasses today. They will hide my tears at some point today. And then I want to thank Dot, her whole team, the whole team we put together to put this on, all the volunteers who showed up today and escorted and helped people. Please stand up so we can give you a round of applause. Come on, all of you. That's Team Menino. Dad, I wish you were here. Every day I wish you were here. I carry your picture with me in my pocketbook. Your number is still in my phone. And I know you'd hate the fact that I got a tattoo on my wrist. It's his initials. Today, I imagine how you would have drove Mom crazy as you would have gone to every store, bought every tie, maybe some new suits and some new shoes so you look perfect for the city you loved. How you would have called me 10 times in a row to ask what I was doing. Were the kids excited? And to tell Bill he's sorry, he messed up another golfing morning in July. On the ride in, you would have told us he was worried that no one would show up for this. You could have asked if all the neighborhoods were involved, and you would have said that you didn't deserve this moment. But once you arrived, I imagine how proud you would have felt seeing your family all together. You would have looked out at the sea of people, your friends, your political partners, your political pains in the neck, and your Team Menino in row after row. Your grin would have stretched from here to your home in Hyde Park. You would have raised your arm and given us all the little wave of yours. You would have been so proud to see so many feeling welcomed in this building and in this new neighborhood by the sea. I wish you were here because you would have loved how your vision turned out. The building filled with homes, businesses, and people. And you would have loved spending your time telling everyone, especially the critics and football stadium fans, how you were right. I wish you were here because in your remarks, you would have said what's etched in stone on your grave. Let's not forget that government should be about helping all the people, not just some of the people. You shared the moral compass with all of us. It is etched in our hearts forever like this big building that now bears your name. It is a Boston institution, just like your Menino schedule and the service to the city. I wish you were here, not just because I miss you. I wish you were here because you deserve to see this moment. And as our family grows, I can now imagine the day when my grandchildren will visit this place. They will see your name. They will know your commitment to the government that helped all the people. And as your daughter, I'm so proud that I get to honor your work once again. I wish you were here. But somehow I know that you are here. We love you, Dad. Congratulations.
Good afternoon. First, I want to thank Chairman Michlewitz, Speaker Mariano, President Silka. Thank you for your tremendous support for our family. Mayor Wu and all the distinguished speakers here today who have shared their memories and kind words about my dad. Governor Haley, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, this would not be possible without your administration. Marcel Vernon and his team at the MCCA for helping us make this dedication a reality. And to the many of my father's friends who are here today, thank you very much for coming. Today we gather not just to remember a mayor, but to honor a man who shaped Boston into a city we know and love today. He did this not just through policy, but with purpose. He was more than a leader, he was a builder, not only of buildings and physical infrastructure, but of trust, community, and opportunity. He was a leader who believed deeply in the power of the city, and especially in its people. It's only fitting that today we rename this landmark, the Boston Convention Center and Exhibition Center, as the Thomas Michael Menino Convention and Exhibition Center. This building stands as a symbol of Boston's transformation, and no one was more instrumental in that transformation than my dad, Tom Menino. When the idea of the BCEC was first taking shape, there were skeptics. They were wrong. People wondered, could Boston really become a global destination for conventions and innovation? Could a massive facility like this truly serve the neighborhood beyond the walls? Dad had no doubt. He knew that this was going to be built and had to mean something to everyone. Dad's priorities always speaking the question, how can this benefit the people of Boston? And that's how he approached everything he did. He believed deeply that development wasn't just about cranes in the skies or rising skylines. It was about creating opportunities for all Bostonians. He didn't just think about square footage. He thought about jobs. He didn't just talk about revenue. He made sure that revenue would flow back into the communities, keeping residential taxes lower, investing in schools, parks, and public safety, and small businesses. It's about making sure that every project, every innovation district, every housing plan, every commercial investment was tied to real benefit for real people. This was a city where progress didn't leave anyone behind. He knit the city together, block by block, neighborhoods by neighborhoods, with a common thread: opportunity. He knit the city together through development that respected our past and visions that pushed us forward. And as Boston rose, he made sure that people rose with it. He saw development as a tool, not just economic growth, but equality, for opening doors that just had been shut, for connecting people to jobs that paid well, gave them a future, for giving young people a shot at the industries of tomorrow, and for preparing our people for demands of the next generation. He pushed the city to look beyond its backyards, beyond the limitations of past, and towards the future where everyone had a seat at the table, whether it was revitalization of Dudley Square or the transformation of the seaport. Every decision was made with people in mind. The center wasn't just hosting global events. For him, it was about Bostonians on a global stage, creating thousands of jobs in construction, hospitality, tourism, and technology, and ensuring that young persons in Mattapan, East Boston could find a future in the world coming right into their city doorsteps. Renaming the center in his honor, is more than symbolic. It's a promise to carry forward the values he lived by: equality, inclusion, opportunity, and a deep belief of progress must belong to everyone. And that's his legacy, not just a Boston that grew, but a Boston that grew together. A city made stronger by its people, by its diversity, by their ambition, and by the mayor who believed that the city of government worked best when it worked for everyone. So let this building now stand not just as the Thomas Michael Menino Convention Exhibition Center, but as a living tribute to a mayor who saw the whole city, loved every corner of it, and worked every day to bring it closer together. Thank you, Dad, for a foundation you laid for the future you believed in, and for remembering us that a great city is not built just on concrete and steel, but on a community, compassion, and a shared vision for all, opportunity of all. Dad, your city still walks with you and your family. Your legacy lives in every corner of this place. Dad, we love you.
Please remain seated as the family unveils the new signage at the front of the building.
share of the